All right, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get this started. Our consultant designer who is going to be giving part of this presentation is having some technical difficulties, but we will go ahead and get started now. So this meeting is about the Del Monte and Casa Verde Recreation Trail and Intersection Improvement Project. This project is actively in construction at the location Del Monte and Casa Verde. So with that, we'll just start with a brief history of the project. So this project actually has been in some form going on for quite some time. The real start of this project was with an NCIP traffic study application back in 2001, so over 10 years ago now. At that study point in time, the project was not in the final form that it is today. But then we officially kicked off the study in the 2016 time period. And then the project study was finalized in 2017, where the neighborhood participated in several community meetings and picked a final proposed concept. And with that final proposed concept, the remaining funds from that study were used to submit a grant application for the Highway Safety Improvement Program project. We were very lucky that this was a project that that Caltrans funded, and so we were awarded the grant to move forward with the project in 2019. So moving on then now to design, we had a kickoff for the design in 2021. We had a community meeting in 2021 where we had the opportunity for residents to vote on a few different options having to do with the recreation trail. One really important aspect of the project that came as a result of that 2021 meeting was at the initial design, we did not have a right turn lane that went from Del Monte onto Casa Verde. That was actually proposed in that community meeting, and that was a change to the project scope that happened at that time. The design phase was completed then in 2023. At that point in time, we had the ability to move on to the construction phase where we have to be authorized by Caltrans and FHWA in order to advertise this project for construction. In June 2024, we awarded a construction contract to Precision Grade, who you see out on the trail today. And September 2024, we awarded a construction management contract, and we have a representative of the construction management firm on the call today. So these are real eyes on the street. This is a federal contract, and there is a great deal of very specific paperwork with an expertise that we don't use daily. So they support us in our ability to deliver a good project, and we are able to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. So then 2025, we were actually able to break ground. And so that's where we are today, where we have some of the project in construction. Just a note on the funding sources. So we used 4 funding sources for this project. So we got our seed money from NCIP, and that funded the initial traffic study. We did all the outreach as part of the traffic study, and it paid for some of the grant application. We were also using NCIP to fund part of the design. Measure X funds were used, and the federal grant was used. When we got into construction, we had to add in Measure X. This project would have used Measure X in order to finish the ADA upgrades at the intersection. So that paid for a component of this project. And with that, it looks like our designer is still not able to be on the phone. So I will go ahead and take some of these slides for him. So we started with the existing conditions. So all of these photos were taken from the grant application that we submitted back in 2018. And these are just pointing out some safety concerns that were identified through the community outreach and also then observations from our designer. So the signage and striping and and how we've had past projects to help with safety issues, but now we need to take that next step. And I see that our designer is on the phone. So Frederick, are you able to take over?
Yes, I can take over if you would just run the slides, please, Marissa.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, on the slide that you see here, we illustrated the complexities of the existing design or the previous design before we started the upgrade, right? And those had to do with a couple of elements. Number one was no protection for left turn lanes or for the left turn movements. So, it was a permissive left turn phase. There was also the challenge with you make the turn from Del Monte, onto Casa Verde, and then you need to stop again so you wait, number one, for pedestrians that cross, and then you move over a few hundred feet, and then you wait again for pedestrians and bicycles to cross, right? And often that queue would spill back onto Del Monte. Then, of course, there was also, and the city did go as far as installing additional signing and striping to try and, warn bike users not to cross and actually look, because we also know that a lot of the cyclists would just bail and cross the intersection without looking because they know they have right-of-ways, and that's always been a concern. Next slide, please. So the number one goal of this project was really to look for safety benefits, right? The big concern was, vehicles don't feel safe making those turns. Number one, the permissive phasing, for the left turns onto Del Monte. The other challenge was then again the peds crossing at the pedestrian crossing, and then the bikes and the peds crossing on the rec trail. How do we take some of the ambiguity away from it, right? And have a single point of crossing, right? Combine them into one, easy control by a traffic signal, which has a lot of more unambiguous movements, and it sets control of who has right of way and who can walk and who has to wait. We don't do the two-stage stops that we talked about. And the bikes and the peds, have to wait when the man is red, the little walk sign is red, or say you need to stop, they need to wait. Then we added a westbound right turn lane, and that was actually added after we spoke to you the last time. So that would be the westbound right turn lane from on Del Monte that makes it into the Del Monte neighborhood, Del Monte Beach neighborhood. And that removes the vehicles out of the through movement, right? So we are preventing rear end collisions or people changing lanes, to avoid cars waiting to make that right turn movement. With the improvements that we're making, there will be improved capacity at the intersection. And then, of course, those protected left turns that we talked about, it's going to be not great just for cars, but also for pedestrians. Right? And that's extremely important for us. And then we improved the lighting. So that would be the street lighting that illuminates the crosswalks at this crossing. So nighttime or when it's dark, when the pedestrians cross, we can better see them, right? Okay. Next slide, please, Marissa. So the construction striping, right, is what it includes is, and I do apologize, something's not showing up on the slide, but the construction striping includes currently one lane in to the Del Monte Beach neighborhood, and then two lanes out. One is a right turn lane, and the other one is a shared through and left. Now, this is only a temporary measure that we need to take as long as the contractor is working on the east side of the roadway. So they're basically taken up one lane. Once they are done with the work there, they're going to move over to the west side, and then all the striping is going to move over again towards the east. Again, the focus here with the construction striping is to accommodate traffic while being able to work. We need to provide a safe space for the contractor to work. The traffic control plans are being approved by the city. But again, it's usually, we always say when you do construction, there's a lot of pain before the gain afterwards. So, we just anticipate that there's going to be some additional delay, but as soon as the project's done, it's a win-win for everybody that uses the intersection, right? Next slide. So the final design is on this slide, and it shows how, we straighten out the crosswalks, which is also part of the improvement. So there's actually a slight shortening of crossing, and we provide the combined bike and ped crossing on the north leg, and then we have the protected phasing. Per the traffic calming outreach meetings that we've had with the Del Monte Beach neighborhood group, there's going to be the installation of that splitter island, where the one-way system goes off to the right and comes in on the left-hand side. And the main purpose of that was to calm traffic down, coming into the neighborhood and also leaving the neighborhood, and also making sure that as they slow down, that approach towards the Del Monte intersection happens in a very organized manner. Next slide. So focusing again on the conflicts, right, and safety. So if you count every one of these orange dots, so let's count the ones at the ped crossing and also the one at the rec trail crossing. So there's potentially 8 locations where a car and a pedestrian or a car and a bike can collide, right? So basically then 8 conflict points. Plus, we have those 2 left turns that are currently permissive, right? So if you make, so one is from the northbound approach and the other one's from the southbound approach, right? That puts a pedestrian or even a cyclist that crosses there in harm's way of a vehicle making the left turn from Casa Verde or out of the Del Monte Beach neighborhood. Next slide. So by removing the rec trail, right, and combining it with the intersection crossing, right, and we only going to have 3 lanes, so 2 coming out and 1 going in, right? We only have 3 potential conflict points. And then what we've done with those left turn movements, we've now protected the phasing of it for pedestrians, which means that has added safety, right? So the potential accidents that can now occur at this intersection gets reduced from 11 to 5, right? So if you quickly want to multiply that 5 or 11 conflict points by 143 people and bikes that cross the facility on a daily on a weekend day, you can see that that's quite a bit of reduction in probability of accidents with the revised layout that we have. Next slide, please. So here's some photos of current construction. You can see the sidewalk being constructed and poured, concrete pour on the left-hand side. The middle one is just a little bit later in the day. So before they poured the concrete. But you can also see the lane striping on the far end. So this is actually exiting from the Del Monte Beach neighborhood. And then the right-hand side photo shows the construction of the right-turn pocket on Del Monte. Again, you can see that the contractors do need the staging space that we give them so that they can, the construction vehicles can get in. We've got to drop the steel off. We've got to pour the concrete, and they need space to work. And that's why we unfortunately need to take out a lane for the construction staging area. Next slide.
Frederick, I'm actually going to take over because the next slide is questions. So at this point in time, I'd like to introduce you to Emiliano Jimenez. So he is our inspector on site. So Emiliano, if you just want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Emiliano Jimenez. I'm with SJ Construction Management. I'm the inspector for the Del Monte Casa Verde Recreational Trail Project. You'll probably see me there every single day on site. So any day there is construction, if you happen to swing about site, I will be on site and you'll be able to find me and I'll be able to answer any questions you may have.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Emiliano. So with that, I'm going to move it over to questions. So if anybody would like to raise their hand, we do have some time for questions. There are consultants are available. So both in regards to the design, which Frederick can discuss, and Emiliano, if there's any sort of detailed questions on construction.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Josh Goldman, resident on Spray. Um, I apologize if this was discussed because I joined a couple minutes late, but it looks like where there are 3 lanes exiting the Del Monte Beach, there's now going to be just 2. So we're losing, I'm just worried about the backups, especially in the summer that go up the hill toward Casa Verde. Some number of cars get moved out of that because they turn right on red. It looks like with 2 lanes, we're going to be losing at least some of that. Is that right? Because we no longer have a dedicated right turn lane exiting Del Monte Beach.
No, I think the ultimate improvement still includes the dedicated right turn lane, right? No, sorry, sorry, it's a shared through right. So yeah,
Right. No, that's my point.
yep.
Right. That if
But
you zoom in on that, it looked like it's shared now. Right now it's 3 lanes. So some cars do get out of, come down the hill and then can make that right, at least till it backs up to that other driveway. So it just looks like less capacity leaving the Del Monte Beach area. Is that right?
there is a little less capacity, but remember, it's not just about the Monte Beach group. It's also about the overall capacity at the intersection. Plus, we have now all the pedestrians and the bikes crossing, right, that intersection there. And the shorter the crosswalk distance is for them, right, means that there's going to be less time taken up, so we can give more green time back to vehicles, and that green time could be given back to the Del Monte Beach neighborhood. So it's not a full capacity reduction, right? If from by losing a lane.
I see. Thank you. That helps, and I understand that better. Thank you.
So ahead, Harry, you should be able to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, was that me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I might have missed, we came in a couple minutes late, so question I have is, how much is this going to cost ultimately, and where is the money coming from?
So we did do that. Let me go back to that slide. Sorry. So there are 4 funding sources. So we have had to deal with quite a few change orders in the field. So exact numbers are not going to be available until we do the final invoicing for the project. Right now, the bidding of the project, the estimate was for about 1.6 million for the construction of the project. There are multiple funding sources. And so even the final amounts that are going to be utilized out of Measure S and Measure X are going to change. We had some remaining federal funds left over from earlier phases. And so we're working with Caltrans in order to move some of the funds that we were able to not spend in earlier phases and apply that to our construction phase. So we can further reduce the amount of local tax measure dollars that are used for this project. One thing to note though, is that there are no general funds funding.
Raise your hand.
I can maybe elaborate a little bit more, Marissa. So the base construction cost is 1.6 million. Right now, we're authorized to spend another 240,000 for any necessary change orders, unforeseen conditions in the field, change conditions. The bulk of this project is funded through a federal grant. So outside money coming from the federal government and being invested in the city, we do have a small local match component, and that is the Measure X and Measure S local sales tax measures that are used for transportation and road maintenance and ADA upgrades.
Did you have another question?
A comment. that I think the combination of this through lane and right-hand turn exiting the neighborhood will make the traffic flow more efficient, and that's good. And my question was whether or not, at what point this bike lane will hook up to the one on Fremont Boulevard, or will it, or at what point?
So that one is quite a bit down the road where it connects with, or so you're talking about North Fremont, because there are some plans in works for actual Fremont Street. So just because those two separate projects, and so there is the Monterey on Move Monterey, the multimodal plan, where there are some projects that are not funded that include connections to between Del Monte and Casa Verde and North Fremont and Casa Verde. But those are currently not funded. But the opportunities exist in a list as part of our multimodal plan, which is the first step in any process of trying to secure grant funding, is they want to see that in a project that has been out to the community, and that project has actually been in several versions of the multimodal plan. But that's been available. It just is currently not a funded project.
Thank
And Carrie, if you wanna.
Oh, yes, hi. My question is about the lights. Will there be a actual left turn light that will come on, so we're not trying to fight traffic anymore going across? And coming in both directions, because the people coming toward Del Monte Beach love to run that light when we're trying to make our left turns. It's really bad.
Yes, we are going to be adding that protected left turn, so you'll have full reign over the intersection to make that left turn. The other benefit is now that it's protected left turn and just the left turn movements are going, if you happen to be in the crosswalk, you are less, you don't have people trying to turn left across the crosswalk and right across the crosswalk at the same time. So there's a less conflict, kind of what Frederick was mentioning earlier in the presentation. So that is a part. We won't be able to put in that improvement until towards the end of the project, because we're not going to be able to implement that until the new traffic signal mast arms are installed. And those come towards the end of the project, just in the construction phasing. And then we'll be able to implement that improvement. So it'll be before the project is finalized construction, but it's going to be towards the end of it.
Okay, that's actually really good news to hear. I really appreciate that. And this is probably beyond the scope of this project, but the through traffic that's just traveling on Del Monte, this is probably the #1 intersection that they run the red lights. It would be a great place to add cameras for ticketing people running red lights on that Del Monte going straight. And it doesn't matter west or east. They run them both directions. So when that light turns green, none of us go for a few minutes. That was just an aside of that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lori, if you want to ask your question.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder, can you go back to whatever the final design is with the conflict? I think it was like 5 conflict points.
Yes.
Just because it's easier for me to look at it. So, and I agree with a number of things other folks have said, especially we're basically going down from 4 lanes in and out of the neighborhood down to 3 total. So I think it was the first gentleman, Josh, who talked about the backup. And I do think that I'm trying to visualize how this is going to work with, instead of 3 lanes, being able to fill in as people are exiting the neighborhood, especially in the summertime when there's so much traffic. I can sometimes get held up 3 to 4, at worst 5 cycles, just trying to come down and fill in. But now we've got 1 less lane to fill in, and the Natali's driveway ends up sort of being a choke point. Now we're going to have this raised triangle. And I think that, I mean, you could somehow at least use part of that road to come in around and fill in some of the lanes. I just think we're going to have backups, and I'm trying to just visualize how this could end up being better. And I know these aren't real questions, and I might come and find the engineer and talk through it, just observations with this sidewalk that seems to have like double wide. It's quite wide. It's taken up quite a bit of real estate. And I realize that's because now you want to funnel just the one lane in. But we get semi trucks up here, moving trucks, huge trucks. And I'm just wondering how and if some of them are going to fit with a raised triangle and the extra wide sidewalk, because it really now kind of creates a double choke point from the Natali's driveway over to this really wide sidewalk, where before that had a lot more space for navigating and moving around. And really, I do have one question. So in addition to those comments, wondering with all of these different narrowings of the lanes, what are the signal times going to be and be changed to?
So this intersection is actually on the adaptive traffic signal system. So the timing for it is going to change based on what the traffic patterns are. One thing that is what Frederick mentioned earlier is that by shortening the crossings, we're giving more opportunity for the signal to look at the pattern and adjust the timings and allocate timings to where they see the cue. So how the traffic signals work is with the video detection cameras is they're monitoring the traffic at each approach and how long each a car is basically over this imaginary loop detector, like back in the old days, how we used to have actual loop detectors on the ground, and watching it and trying to adjust to allocate time as best possible. So one thing to note though is we definitely understand your concern about the left and the shared through right. You do actually get a little bit of extra queuing space that we didn't have before, because you no longer have to keep the crosswalk open and for people to like cross the trail crossing open. So you can actually now have a car parked over where that area is. So you did get one car space back. Also with the left turn, which I think, and I'd have to go back to the traffic counts, which they might be available on the Have Your Say Monterey website. But I think a good portion of our movements are is the left turn. And by having the protected left turn, you can really clear out the left turns more quickly because they're not having to wait to yield to traffic that's trying to get into the neighborhood or turning right.
Hey,
Okay.
if I may respond to the splitter island, that little median, right? So that median is going to be mountable, right? And that was by design specifically for the larger delivery trucks and also for a fire truck, right? To be able to drive over it and get in and get out of the neighborhood. It is, yeah, like I said, it's designed to crunch, not crunch, but have narrow lanes to slow down passenger cars. But it will be 100% mountable for larger trucks. And if you want to drive with it with your car over it, you probably can, but it's going to be uncomfortable, right?
Okay. Okay. And then just one quick last question. The crosswalk from Casa Verde going into the neighborhood, is that one shortened or is that curb going to be redone? Or the curb's going to be redone on the other side?
So are you talking about the recreation trail crossing or the like
no, the other side. I'm trying to see if that is like it normally is. It's on the opposite side. So Del Monte and Casa Verde on the Bayview School side. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the crosswalk will be shortened a little bit on that side as well.
Yeah, and we're reconstructing all the corners to be ADA compliant, right? So yeah, basically. It's a substantial improvement here for especially focusing on pedestrian safety.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Do you have any other questions?
Marissa, if I may, there was the one question about the wider crossing or crosswalk distance for pets and bikes, on the north side. So it's true that there's a little bit more space for that's going to be taken up, right? But remember, we don't have the trail crossing anymore, right? So that trail crossing, where the existing rec trail crossing is, that's going to now go away, and it's going to be used by cars. So you can actually stack in it. The other thing is you got to remember is if you had to leave the site, so it was definitely a challenge if you left El Monte Beach neighborhood and the light was green, but there was a bike or a pet crossing at the rec trail, right? Then you couldn't continue to get through the green light. You had to wait for them to cross, right? We're removing that delay for people exiting the neighborhood as well. One other thing is, unfortunately, maybe the messenger here, the bad messenger, the summertime traffic gets extremely, and we know how much it increases in the city, right? And unfortunately, we cannot build ourselves out of, that traffic and accommodate it, right? It is by design. I think Monterey is in that position that there will always be summer traffic grow, and we got to have to adjust and live with it, right? And then, we focus these designs then afterwards, for functioning better outside of the summertime. And like I said, improving safety for pedestrians and cyclists.
Go ahead, Councilmember Garcia.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to jump in here for just a second and say thank you all for attending this virtual meeting. Thank you to the Public Works team for putting this presentation together pretty quickly, actually. I had a couple of conversations with folks who are in the virtual audience here, who had expressed some concerns and some doubts and questions, had questions about this project. So in an effort to try to bring more information to clarify some of these points and really explain the purpose of the project, once again, thank you for the Public Works Department for putting this information together for all of us. Thank you, Marissa. Thank you, Andrea and Andrew, I see, and everyone else in the team. I don't mean to not name everyone, but I appreciate you. And also, thank you to the residents of Del Monte Beach and maybe even, I'm not sure I recognize all the names, maybe even some folks from outside of Del Monte Beach who were raising these questions as well. It's a group effort, right, to try to bring these projects to fruition. I, for one, am very excited about this project. I've been following it for a few years. I know it's been a few years in the making. So really excited that ground has been broken and we're moving forward. It's really looking forward to seeing the impact that it'll have on such a busy and tricky intersection. So I use it when I drive through there. I use it when I ride my bike through there. And to see what we're seeing here on the screen, what the final design is, it visually it looks very comfortable, and I look forward to using it once it's already built. Thank you also, Frederick. I see you're on the line here for jumping on and providing some additional detail as well. So yeah, again, thank you all for all the work and really appreciate you pushing this project forward.
And Marissa, before we break, I do have a little bit more information I want to share with the neighborhood, just to get it on their radar early. We do have more work planned in the near future, later this year or perhaps early 2026. We have a project that will be installing ADA compliant curb ramps in the Del Monte Beach neighborhood. We'll be pushing more information out through our city newsletters and our construction news updates. We also, after the ramps are done, we will have some road surface repairs that'll be scheduled for Del Monte Beach neighborhood. So that'll be probably within a few months or a year after the curb ramps project. So there's more work coming. And I definitely, if you guys are involved and interested, I'd encourage you to visit our city website, monterey.org/fixing streets, or sign up for the construction news updates, or just kind of get the press releases from our public information officers distribution list. So we do have more projects coming, and I'm hoping you guys will stay tuned. And that's it for me.
Thank you for those final updates, Andrew. And with that, I will let you all get back to your evening. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thank you.